Hello everyone and welcome to my next video here. This is going to be a little bit different than the videos I have already posted, as it's not a Let's Play, as you can probably tell from the title and thumbnail. This is actually a reveal of the new regional forms that I have just completed for the Zarco region to be implemented into Pokémon Trinity, the fan game that I am working on. So basically, they're not fully implemented into the game yet. Is what I'm working on right now, but the actual designs for all of them are finalized. So I thought it would be really cool to do a little update video to show what I've been working on and see if everyone is enjoying it and see your opinions on these different forms that I've come up with. Okay, so I thought the easiest way to do this was in like a Microsoft Word document, so bear with me here. The first form, as I hinted at in the Let's Play that I was thinking about doing, was your starter, Beldum. So this took a little bit of thinking for me of what different types I would want your starter to be. And of course you don't have to keep your starter, but most people probably will. So this one probably took the most thinking, but it's what got the ball rolling for me. For the Zarconian forms. So I really thought if I'm gonna do regional forms, I gotta give Beldum one, because he's your starter you're given, you don't have a choice. It just seemed to fit. So without further ado, I'll start some of the reveals. So here is Zarconian Beldum, who is Rock and Ghost. So I think it's kind of funny, he has a little like angry eye. Obviously he's got that kind of ghostly energy around him. But yeah, Rock and Ghost Beldum, who will be your new starter. Other design things, I changed his eye color from red to yellow, or kind of a gold, and then instead of making his body like metallic, I tried to put some more cracks in it to make it look a little bit more rocky. Then he will evolve, of course, into Zarconian Metang, keeping the same typing, so he is Rock and Ghost as well. Not a whole ton to say here, I guess. I elongated his head there to kind of make it a point like a rock, turned his arms into pointed rocks, and then instead of actually connecting them to his body, I thought it would be smart to just do that kind of ghostly floating mist. And then finally we have Zarconian Metagross. Now he probably looks the most different from the original Metagross, but I think it makes sense. I played around a lot with the kind of X pattern. Like I kept the, it kind of looks like eyebrows right now. I kept that as a full X at first. Didn't really like how it looked. And then I played around with giving him that kind of creepy mouth. And this is kind of just the best combination I came up with. My logic here is that the eyebrows or the top part of the X there in the new form is like a floating mist as well, so it's not really connected to his body, it's more so like floating there. But definitely has some ghostly influence here with the pointed rocks instead of connected to his body, similar to Metang. So now the cool thing that I thought was a nice addition was for each of the Zarconian forms, I gave them a brand new move that I made up that the final form will learn in their moveset, or learn set. So I thought that was kind of a cool addition to the Zarconian form. So that's what this reveal box over here is going to be. So Zarconian Metagross will learn Stalactite Crash, which is a physical move. This one isn't too unique, I guess. It's kind of an easy to understand move. It's a physical rock move, 80 power, 90 accuracy, so there is a small chance it'll miss, but the additional effect is that it might cause flinching, so it could cause people to flinch. My idea here is that the Metagross there is like releasing his 4 pointed arm parts, and they're like crashing down onto the opponent. Okay, so that is our first Zarconian form. I have 10 lines, so like I would consider this one, and then so whether they be evolutions or single Pokemon, it's still considered like a line to me. So this is the first Zarconian form line. The second, now I'm going in National Pokedex order aside from our starter there. So the second is Growlithe and Arcanine. So Zarconian Growlithe makes a big change from fire to be water type. So he is just solely water type. Couple design changes. Obviously I changed some of his markings. His fluffy tail has been replaced by just kind of a normal tail, and then his head fluff is now in like kind of a mohawk pattern. So then he will evolve into Zarconian Growlithe. Instead of a fire stone, it'll be with a water stone. But this is probably one that has the most design changes. So this took some doing. So I gave him, instead of the fluffy tail, his tail now has elongated into a trident, has a trident tip at the end. Again, some marking changes, really just taking away a lot of his fluff so he looks a little bit more aquatic instead of land-based. And then he keeps that like mohawk look from Growlithe. He also has a dorsal fin now, so he can swim through the water. He has his dorsal fin poking up like a shark. So definitely a interesting and different design look from the fire Growlithe now, or Growlithe and Arcanine. Now we have a water one. And his signature move is called Trident Strike, fitting because he has that trident tail. I really like this one. It's similar to Body Slam, so it's a physical move. It is water type, obviously, so that's a difference. It's a little bit weaker than Body Slam. Body Slam, I believe, is 85 power, 100 accuracy, so it's 70 power. But the additional effect is that it has a 30% chance to paralyze, just like Body Slam does. I was realizing as I made that move how OP Body Slam really is. That's like a really good move. So I think by giving this water typing on top of it, I really had to lower the power a bit. Otherwise it would be a little too insane of a move. Alright, so without further ado, let's move on to the next one. So from Gen 2, I picked the Hoppip line. Let me see if I can scroll down just a little more. There we go. That's the other thing. I tried to pick at least one line from each generation. So there's actually 2 from Gen 3, 2 from Gen 5, but other than that, there's 1 from each generation. So Growlithe and Arcanine were our Kanto. Here's our Johto line. I decided to do Hoppip, and instead of grass flying, they are becoming fire flying. So Hoppip is probably my least favorite of the 3 here. He starts very simple, just kind of like a coal-colored body and then a little red bump on his head. The logic here, I actually put this in his new Pokedex description, is that he like breaks off of coal clumps and mines and floats around the mine, and his little head bump will glow and it like lights up the mine. So then he evolves into Zarconian Skiploom, who now has this big vat of lava spilling off of his head. And I believe he's actually known as the Lava Spill Pokemon, if I remember how I worded that right. Same thing, they're like floating around mines. I'm kind of debating giving these two Fire Rock instead, but they do float around, so flying would still be okay. I guess let me know what you think about that, if you have one way or another. If they seem more rock type to you because they're kind of associated with coal, or if just to keep them fire flying. But he will then evolve into Zarconian Jumpluff, who's probably one of my favorite designs of any of them that I've created. I really like how he turned out. The fire that's like shooting from the 3 different areas, and then his body has become this bright orb. So my logic here is that when he like tucks in his flames, or he's not shooting out flames, his body burns like really, really bright, and then the 3 parts on his body are like exhaust fans almost, and they like let out the fire from inside of him. So I really like fire flying for him. I just think the first 2 forms maybe could be fire rock. So definitely would be interested to hear feedback on that. But one thing to mention here, some people may notice if you have a pretty keen eye, I kind of borrow pieces from other Pokemon when I'm making these forms, which I think is okay. I don't think it looks too bad. But for example, the lava on Skiploom's head came from a combination of Slugma and Magcargo that I kind of cropped off of them and re-pieced together. And then the fire comes actually from Charizard's tail on Jumpluff here. So just an interesting thing. I don't think it's too frowned upon to do that, especially since I am like reworking them, and especially for Jumpluff, it's just fire. It's just that I don't think I could have made fire better than how it is on Charizard's tail. Anywho, so the move that Jumpluff will learn is called Blinding Light. So this one is a status move. It's fire type, obviously no power because it's status, but it has 100% accuracy, and it lowers the accuracy and defense of all opposing Pokemon. So either the single foe you're facing or both in a double battle. So it's kind of neat that it lowers 2 stats in one go. Okay, so that is all for our Gen 2 line. So obviously, Beldum and his line came from Gen 3. Here's the next one from Gen 3. As I mentioned, there's 2, Phoebus and Melodic. I really, really like how these ones turned out, although I think Phoebus is a little bit goofy looking. I didn't notice this when I first made it, but I had a friend refer to him as Turkey Phoebus, so I think that's going to be kind of how I refer to him from now on. Again, here, just kind of an interesting note if you're curious. I did borrow I guess their wings, the little back part of Phoebus from Milotic here, or Melodic. I guess I don't even know how to say that one. I've always said either, whatever comes out first. But then his legs are actually Bagon's legs too, because I didn't want him to be a fish anymore, per se, because he's not water. He's now just fairy type. So he's a mono fairy type, that's it. Now, another one of my favorites, actually, is Zarconian Melodic, who becomes fairy and dragon. A lot of borrowed things here. These are actually Fearo's wings and Haxorus's arms, but I think it looks okay. I don't think you can really, like, tell that that's, I don't know, like it's cheaply done or something, because I recolored them, I repositioned them to make them work with this new body. A couple other design things, I made his, like, eyebrow antenna things a little bit shorter, and then the tail obviously doesn't fan out anymore, it just kind of ends like a serpent tail. But I really, really love the typing fairy dragon. To my knowledge, I don't think there's any existing fairy dragons. The same goes for the Beldum line. There's actually, I don't think, any rock ghost types right now, so kind of cool. And then the new move I came up with for Melodic is called Transcendent Song. It is a special attacking move, fairy type, 60 power, 100 accuracy. And then it's similar to Fire Spin or Sand Tomb, to where it'll deal damage at the end of each turn as well. So it's, my idea here is that some kind of majestic legendary song that they let out, and then it like reverberates, or it keeps going every turn that they hear it. So that's them. Moving on to our Gen 4 form. This one took me a while to choose. I really like a lot of Pokemon from Gen 4, but I ended up with Buizel and Floatzel, and I actually really love how these ones turned out. So Buizel will become Mono Poison type, and the kind of moss, I guess, that's on his head is because you're going to find him in a route that I haven't developed yet. It's coming pretty soon in the game, but it's part of the nature preserve is going to be swampy, so he's going to kind of like live in the murky waters of the swamp. Could have kept water, I guess. Maybe he could be water poison, but I like just mono poison for him. I think it works, especially because his evolution is going to be poison and dark. So I really, really love how Floatzel turned out. He kind of reminds me of like a vampire. So poison and dark, and here's an interesting thing why I mentioned that I'm borrowing parts from other Pokemon and kind of repurposing them. This, if you notice, is Lotad's lily pad around his neck. If you also notice, there's kind of like blood dripping from it. So this one is kind of done purposefully. Like, that's not supposed to be a part of Floatzel. He's actually literally wearing a Lotad's lily pad, because you'll be able to find Lotad, Lombre, maybe even Ludicolo in this swamp as well. And my logic here is that Floatzel is their primary predator. So Floatzel's actually attack and eat those Lotads, and then some of them will put on the lily pad as like a victory sign. So other little things, I gave him claws. The design on his belly is a little bit different, obviously recolored to be more poisonous, and then instead of fins, he has also that kind of mossiness hanging around his back. So love the move I came up with for him. It's called Ravenous Maw. It's a physical move with priority +1, which means that it will go before most moves. It's a dark type move, 65 power and 100 accuracy. So normally it almost functions like Bite, but it also heals you 50% of damage dealt. So almost like a combination of Bite and Absorb. But the cool part is that if you are facing a Lotad, Lombre, or Ludicolo, that priority kicks in and will immediately one-hit KO them. Any of those lines, because obviously that kind of gives credit to the predator-prey nature that I came up with here. So I really love that idea that if you're a Floatzel against, say, a Lombre, and you go to switch out, you really won't be able to. It'll almost act like Pursuit, and you'll get that Ravenous Maw off and one-hit KO them before they can switch out. That's the whole reason I gave it priority. So given that that's kind of a rare scenario, you're not going to always be up against that line, I had to give it some other benefit, so it's like Bite, but it heals you as well. The idea there is that you're like consuming something, because he's a predator. Okay, so I really am pleased with how that one turned out. Okay, next up, we have our second Gen 4. I do have 2 Gen 4s. So I have two from 3, 2 from 4, and 2 from 5. Okay, that's right. I forgot about these guys. So these guys are also going to be found on a route I haven't developed yet. I think he's a little bit goofy, Krogunk here. He becomes Mono Ice type, but I do have kind of an idea of why he looks this way. So he's going to be found obviously on a snowy route. But my idea is that he hasn't quite adapted well to the like cold conditions, so he has crafted these clothes for himself. Now, since he's not poison anymore, his cheek pouch, which was kind of reminiscent of a frog, now looks like a rosy red cheek. So he's this mono ice type, struggling to adapt. But then when he evolves, he's spent so much time in the conditions, the icy conditions, that he has added the fighting type and become a little bit more hardened. So he is now ice fighting. I really capitalized on his mustache, Toxicroaks, and turned it into a full beard that he grows. He kind of rips off the clothing and ties them around his wrists as like those fighting wraps. Definitely icy. Turned all his kind of accents into like icy veins, and those claws look like icicles. So pretty cool. I like him a lot, how he turned out. And his signature move is going to be called Fortitude. So this is another status move. It's fighting type, 100 accuracy. So there's kind of two effects to it. So if you use it in a normal situation, it'll increase your defense by 2 stages. I believe that's similar to like Iron Defense. But if you use it when Hail is active, it'll do that and heal you up to 50% of max HP, which is the exact same as Recover. So you can kind of strategize here by teaching him Hail or double battling with somebody with Hail, putting out Hail, and then you get the defense raise and healing. So the logic there is, again, he's become like battle hardened in the cold elements, so he's like thriving from the cold. So I like that his move a lot. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Design, I think, is pretty cool. Probably not one of my favorite ones, but definitely on any of these, let me know what you guys think. Alright, so moving on to the Generation 5 forms. We start with Purloin and Liepard. So Purloin, instead of being dark, will become ground electric. So you kind of see the like mud splatters I have on him to simulate the ground type, and then as well as the kind of gold yellow markings to give credit to electric type. He is going to be found in the Central Plains. So he's kind of somebody that I like created for the Central Plains because I didn't have any Zarconian forms in that area, and it's such a unique part to my game that I thought I should have a Zarconian form for there. So he will evolve into Zarconian Liepard, who maintains that ground electric typing. Not a whole lot of design changes here, a lot of recoloring, some pattern redesign, and then instead of it being fur, I have his legs brown to insinuate that they're covered in mud. And then his move is not too unique either. It's new. It's called Muddy Claws. It's basically just a physical ground type move. 40 power, 100 accuracy, but it will always hit twice, like double kick. So almost like a combination of Fury Swipes and some just like basic ground move. So again, Muddy Claws for Zarconian Liepard, who you will find in the Central Plains. One of them, or maybe a few, I don't know. So... Alright, and then the second Generation 5 Zarconian form is going to be Golett and Golurk. I really, really like how this one turned out. So without any further ado, Zarconian Golett becomes Rock and Grass. So I took the idea of them being kind of like a sentient golem, and instead of a mechanized one, I turned them into like a jungle one, or like a old rock golem. So Ghost, I guess I could have kept Ghost, but I really like Grass because of how, like I said, kind of in the jungle you would find them. And instead of his hand just being up in the air, he's actually holding a large vine whip that's wrapped around his arm there. And then he has kind of like a cape almost of moss on his back. He will evolve then into Zarconian Golurk, who has become kind of this like guardian sentinel of the forest. Here's something, if somebody didn't notice, that his headdress thing is actually Oddish's leaves, but I do like it there. I played with the idea of moving it. Maybe I'll just make it 3 leaves instead of the whole 5, but I really like it there. I really think he like looks good with it. And then instead of, he kind of has this like skirt on the Unnovan form, so I kind of gave him like a toga of grass or moss, and then again he has those vines wrapped around his arms. So I really like how he turned out. And his signature move is called Jungle Blessing. This is another status move. It's a grass type move. So normally the move will fail. It won't do anything, kind of like Splash. But if you have grassy terrain active, it will boost all of your stats by 1 stage. So like the rare effect from Ancient Power, but it would immediately do it. So he will definitely have grassy terrain in his moveset or be able to learn it somehow, so you can really like pair those together and make a cool cool stat booster. Okay, so then from there let's move to our Generation 6 form. One of my favorites from Generation 6, Noibat and Noivern. So this was an interesting one. I knew I wanted to do them, but making their design was a little bit tricky. So Noibat's is really just a recoloring. His markings on his head are different, but he drops both of the types that he had. So now he, instead of dragon flying, he is electric dark. So I could keep him flying, or I could keep him dragon, but I think electric dark works for what I'm going for here. I tried to minimize his dragon aspects and make him more just bat-like when he turns into Noivern. So Zarconian Noivern, definitely reminiscent of a bat. I kind of gave him those clips in his wing, the bright blue for like that bright electricity. Took away his tail, just kind of less dragon-y, more bat-like. Took away that fluff around his neck. So yeah, so just to make him dragon dark, or I'm sorry, not dragon dark, electric dark. I wanted to kind of minimize on those other elements. His signature move is called Echo Zap, which is very similar to Echoed Voice. Basically, it's a lower power move, only 40 power, electric type, but every time you use it in succession, the power increases by 40. There is a cap at 200. Again, that's kind of a copy of Echoed Voice. So basically, the first time you use it, it'll have 40 power, then 80, then 120, but it'll cap at 200. You can't just like infinitely get more strong. So kind of a cool electric move for him. Okay, and then we just have one more. So the last one, our Generation 7, is the only single no evolution Pokemon, single form, Turtonator. So Zarconian Turtonator has become Ice and Steel type. So Ice and Steel, kind of, his design here is supposed to be like his body casing is made out of steel, whereas the Alolan one, I guess, is more rock or lava maybe. But his casing is made out of steel in Zarco, and then he has that snow to cover him up, and then the spikes are icicles sticking out from him. So his signature move is called Spike Trap, and this will kind of make sense with my logic for his design. It is a physical move with lowered priority, so it should go after others. It is basically a copy of Counter, so if you're hit with a physical move during that turn, you'll double back the damage to the opponent. That's why the power is kind of nothing. It just depends on what you get hit with. So my logic here is he's going to be found in the snowy routes up in the mountains, and as a like defense mechanism, they'll lay flat under the snow with just those icicles sticking up. So if somebody were to step on them, that's kind of their angle to attack, and then they like attack back like a trap. So really, his icicles on his back are made of steel. They're just camouflaged to look like icicles. So that's kind of the move gives credit to why I designed him the way that I did. So instead of being like a fire, of course he's going to be more defensive, but just this time steel instead of dragon. I did take away his dragon, which I do like Turtonator, dragon and fire, but I thought it was cool to repurpose him here. So that is all these Zarconian forms. I'll pull up this last page I put up with all my contact information. If you want to keep following Pokemon Trinity, definitely subscribe to YouTube there. Follow me on Twitter. Twitter is probably the best because that's going to be where I post all the updates I am working on the game. And if I ever post a video, I'll post the link to a tweet as well. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll definitely get the most recent updates. Subscribing to YouTube, though, is great, too, so you can follow the videos I make. And then I also threw my Gmail down here just in case you want to give any feedback, have any questions. If you want a copy of Pokemon Trinity to play it yourself, you can email me there, and I can get that to you. I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to continue working on implementing the Zarconian forms. So far I have, I just started with the top of the national deck, so I put in Growlithe, Arcanine, Hoppip, Skiploom, and Jumpluff, and now I'm currently working on, or I just finished Phoebus this morning. So I'll work on Milotic next, and then go from there. So it does take a while to implement them, so it might be a while before I actually make progress in creating the game, because I want to get all these forms into the game before I proceed with the actual map and story. It takes a while, though. There's all kinds of sprites I have to change. There's like information I have to change their typing, their movesets, their abilities, things like that. So Bear with me. I'm going to try to get them in as soon as I can. But if you're enjoying my updates here with Pokemon Trinity, or if you're enjoying the playthroughs that I posted, keep following. I promise I'm working on it slowly but surely here. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see everybody in the next video.